Today, I'm going to be reacting to a story of a time when Alex Hormozi had no money left in his bank account, but he had $100,000 left on an American Express business credit card, and how he was able to take that, max it out by spending $3,300 a day in ads, different marketing, flights, hotels to completely turn his business around, pull himself out of a $100,000 hole, and set himself up for where he is today. And then I'll break down how this lesson applies to so many of your businesses today and how you can use the same strategy.
And so we were supposed to start on the 26th of December, which was 2016. And on the 24th of December, I had done this big launch to kind of recoup money because that was how I knew how to make money. So I did a big launch and we had like $100,000 that was supposed to come to us. And then but for whatever reason, the money wasn't coming. Like we were processing the credit cards and it just wasn't getting deposited. And it'd been almost like 3 weeks. I was like, what's going on? So Christmas Eve, I get on the phone with the payment processor and I was like, I'm not getting off the phone until you guys send me the money. And long story short, they said, hey, because of that gym that you opened up and you had, because I shut the gym down that was with that guy. And I was doing launches in other locations. So I was running everything through a Southern California brick and mortar processor account, which I didn't know how this works. So I just figured, like, yeah, you just process money through the POS. And so I was making up memberships that didn't exist for gyms that I wasn't at. And they were like, this is irregular. We're just going to hold on to this money for 6 months. And that was all of the money that I needed. And 2 days later, all of her friends were supposed to quit their job and start this new launch business with me. And so that was going to cost me $3,300 a day in advertising, hotels, airfare, rental cars, per diems for food for this new launch and go model. And I had a credit card from when I had my gyms that still hadn't been canceled by Amex for a $100,000 limit on it. And that's when I told Layla, I was like, hey, I think this could go really, really terribly wrong. And I think you would be justified in leaving me at this time. I'm like sitting in her parents' basement or, I'm like, you really should leave me right now. I don't think this is going well for me. And she said, I would sleep with you under a bridge if it came to that. And so, when she said that to me, it gave me whatever confidence, every guy could use. And I started, I spent $3,300 a day on a credit card and meanwhile, I still didn't have a way to process money. So we're spending $3,000 plus a day, selling 20 to 60, packages of fitness per day with all these sales guys. And I couldn't process the money.
So most people would completely fold at this point. All the money that you made in the last 30 days, $100,000, he had to pay his sales team. He had to run more ads. He had to cover airfare, rental cars, hotels, equipment, all this stuff to run his gym launch business. And then because of a mistake with the processor, he had no access to that capital. He didn't have his 100,000. I mean, what would you do in that situation, right? Most people would say, I'm hanging it up. I'm getting a job. I need to work myself out of this debt and then maybe try again or just give up on business completely. It would be detrimental. It's a great example of doing whatever it takes to make your business get to where you want it to be and get to the next level of what he actually did. So let's keep watching.
So on the last day of the month, I finally got some processor to give me a $50,000 limit. If you're doing the math here, $3,300 a day does not add up to $50K. But the good news was I could process $50K a month, which meant that on the last day of January, I processed 50. On the first day of February, I processed 50. I got 2 more running. And so the 50 and 50 covered my $100,000 from the month before. And then I was still back at zero again. And so the next month I made like $20,000 or $30,000 in profit after costs. And so that kind of concluded the first rock bottom. And then fast forward 3 months, all these gyms that we're doing these launches for started telling the customers to refund and go through them instead at half the price after we would leave the location because they had the relationship with them. But we owed the processing risk, which ended up being a recurring theme. And so anyways, they told them to refund. And so that was, so I lost everything again, the little nut that I had saved up. And that was when I called the gym owners to say, hey, we're going to sell direct to consumer. I think maybe, I was telling Layla, I was like, I think maybe I'm out on this gym thing. Like something's not working and I just need to switch gears. But when I called the first guy up and I said, I'm not doing it. He said, I put my life savings into this gym, man, and I refinanced my house and I maxed it on my cards. Like I need your help. And so push came to shove and I said, fine, I'll show you how I fill gyms up and how my whole system works. I was like, but I'm not flying out there to save your ass if you can't sell. And he said, no, it's fine. And so he said, well, how much? And I said, $6,000, which at the time was the most money I could possibly imagine someone paying me. And he said, yes, in like 5 seconds. And I was like, holy shit. And I was dumbfounded. And so then I just grabbed a piece of cardboard. I was like, oh yeah, what card do you want to use? And then I, wrote it down and processed $6,000 in one transaction and had 7 more calls that day and ended up doing $60,000 in a single day. And Layla came back in from doing weight loss sales because that was going to be the new business. And I was like, hey, I think we're still in the gym business. I think we were just doing it wrong. And she's like, wait, so we're back in gyms? And I was like, yeah, we're back in gyms. And so from there, I called all the old gyms that we'd done the launches for, said, hey, remember that thing I just ripped $100,000 out of your location for? Want me to show you how I did it? And they said, sure. And then I sold them the thing. And then that was, so that's the slightly longer story of that with many sadnesses taken out of that.
All right. So if you caught that, there was not once but twice where he lost everything. Due to partnerships, business, it's all learning. Everything we're doing in business is learning. It's hard. It's always hard. Failures, you learn a lesson and you keep going. That's what the game is all about. But the key portion is that he had access to capital still. If he didn't have that $100,000 Amex card, none of this would have been possible. He wouldn't have been able to continue on that second run, which then eventually led him to packaging up his whole program and sending an e-digital product. That didn't come till after. The first save was his Amex business card. He was still able to run ads. He was still able to purchase and do everything he needs. Now, I talk to clients daily. A lot of times they think that they need cash. They think that they need $100,000 cash deposited into their business bank account. And that's just how it is. They're stuck in the mindset of business loans, personal loans, which have their time and place as well. But they don't realize that 95% of everything in their business is paid for on card anyways. Marketing, hotels, flights, rental cars, vendors, retail build out, e-commerce, real estate, fix and flip, Airbnb. I mean, the list goes on of the types of clients that we've helped, some of the most unique businesses, and having access to business credit, especially with a 0% interest rate for a full year, is what sometimes can make or break a business. One of the biggest things I try to challenge our clients to do is to think about if you did have $100,000, 50, 150, whatever the case is, what exactly would you spend that money on in your business, whether you're starting it or you want to scale it to the next level? How exactly would you spend that? What would that cost? How could you utilize capital, whatever kind of capital, loan, card, whatever it is? Once you reach that point, then you can see how the card applies. I'll give you an example. I have a lot of clients that are either in home services, some sort of contracting, roofing, solar, construction, whatever it is, where they're doing jobs for clients, but then they don't get paid the majority of the money until the job's complete, and sometimes 45 days after the job's complete. So they have to cover a lot of those expenses up front. So when we get them funding, what that does is that gives them the ability to put those charges, materials, labor, whatever they need on the business credit cards, stretch out that 0% until they actually get paid from that job 30, 45, 60, 90 days later, and then they can pay it off and rinse and repeat. So that's one example. Other clients that we have that are investing in real estate, such as fix and flip, whether they're leveraging hard money lenders or they're using their own money, they don't have to use as much of the hard money or their own money, saving on costs, and they can leverage the 0% for the majority of the rehab costs. If you're doing a rehab, you're doing it legally, you're using legal contractors, subcontractors, they take credit card in most places. When you're doing it the Home Depot route, then maybe you're going to need some cash, and then you can get a personal loan to cover some of those expenses. So here's the lesson. Even the biggest CEOs in business today have tools. They have leverage. They have levers that they can pull when they get into a situation to work themselves out. They have a creative thinking process that allows them to see all the avenues. This is more so happens when you're working on your business versus in your business. When you're in the daily grind, which a lot of us are when you're running a small business, but you have to be able to take a step back and look at the business as a whole so you can see the different directions that you could go in versus just what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. So regardless of whatever the situation you're in, whether you feel stuck, you feel like you may not qualify for funding, or you haven't even started a business and you just need the capital to get it going because you know your idea is gonna be the one to make it, there's a way. There's ways that you just don't even know exist, and this is what we do on a daily basis. We educate our clients on a path that can work specifically for your situation, and then we implement and get you the funding to get you where you need to go. If you would like to see how much you could pre-qualify for and maybe get a funding plan built out for you, you can use the link in the description to book a free call.